There we go. There we go. Technology has finally come around. Someday we're going to be good at the technology.
Yeah. And I'm going to add this. If you can hear us, just drop a yes in the comments or a hey in the comments.
One of them emoticons, they're my favorite.
Oh yeah, the emojis. Emoticon. Yeah, they can hear us.
Good
So
morning.
yeah, this morning has been I don't know, it's been fast and furious. Trying to pull our stuff together. We're still working on the technology. Every day is a little different, but I think we might have it all figured out today. I'm number one, actually recording. Number two, our chat is now working. So when we ask questions, people can actually answer.
And the link on my Facebook finally works.
Yeah, and Les has his links figured out. Um, yeah, so we had a question this morning about the school. If I was going to join the school, our community, am I signing up for a certain amount of time? And the answer is da, 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 da. So it's month to month. But that's when it's paid. Right now it's free for now. And once we go to the paid options, we will have a month-to-month membership and also a yearly membership if you wish.
And all kinds of options within that, isn't there?
Oh yeah, yeah. Our idea is to have a stream for people that just maybe want a few meditations here and there, and that'll be um, less than, say, if you want to join in our programs and our school options. And then we're going to have a hypnotist version as well for taking courses. That's sort of in my mind right now. Of course, it can change along the way. We're constantly morphing here.
Yeah, right now it's free because right now it's being built and it's still new and fresh. And although we have a whole bunch of ideas, there's only so many hours in a day. And there's sort of there's also a process to learning that I've been part of for such a long time that it's sort of second nature to me. And what I've learned as a hypnotist, as somebody who works on his own mind and has helped people work on theirs, is that there's a kind of a conscious mind to subconscious mind process.
Mhm.
Hypnotists talk about the critical factor. And the critical factor is just it's the part of you that takes responsibility for yourself. The critical factor is the part that is saying, I don't listen to just anybody, and I don't listen to just anything, and I don't change my mind easily. And, that's a useful thing in a world that has anomalies, right? You could show up to, let's say, Newfoundland, like I did one summer when there was actually a whole lot of glacial melt up in Greenland, which sent cold water down along the coast of Newfoundland. And that was my very first visit to Newfoundland. And we were right in the middle of July, and I was pretty darned excited. And I was walking around wearing a winter coat because that cold water had brought cold air. And it was really quite literally like, you know, 2, 3 degrees some days.
Oh yeah, my Nana had the fire in every day.
Yeah. So that's kind of an anomaly.
Mm.
Now I can use that as my understanding of what Newfoundland is, right?
Yeah.
It's just a cold, icy place. Um, but if I'd been there at another time in another summer, like this past summer, where they had heat waves that lasted from June till the end of August,
Mhm.
I might have again another different view, understanding of Newfoundland. Our critical factor is just that part of us that encourages critical thinking, that's logical, and logic takes place in the conscious mind. And the critical factor helps us decipher what is worthwhile going in, what we should be paying attention to. Now, the critical factor has essentially three really big gateways where we have always, for the whole of our life, been willing to let information in. And the first one, I think, is a really dangerous one, while at the same time, it's a speedy one. And that's the gateway of authority.
Hmm. Yeah. Parents. I mean, it starts with parents, and then we're all messed up from that.
Everything mom and dad say is true, right? At first,
Yeah.
anyway, that's the way you built your mind. And this is, in fact, a lot of the stuff that we deal with. We have to
Mhm.
reprogram, not because of any ill intention. I always say that some of the most difficult beliefs we have in our mind were given to us generously, lovingly, with the best of intentions by our parents. They wanted us to be safe. And as a result, a whole bunch of stuff went right into our mind. Remember, as children, we're living in an open, programmable state. They talk about children being constantly in the theta state, that open-mindedness, that below conscious logical functioning. But, some people use the tabula rasa. I think that science suggests that these kinds of big sweeping ideas aren't completely accurate. But I think we can all understand because we've been there. And those of us who have had children have observed it. Those who are close to children, aunts and uncles, have observed it. Children are really open things. They're really willing to believe what's told to them.
Yeah, they're like little sponges, right? Soaking up all the information, and as a child, you don't know where to place that information. You don't know, and if you've got emotions attached to it, you're not sure what to do with the emotions. So it just sort of locks in. It creates these links between emotion and event. And of course, based on how many of those events happen in a row, um, you've got a meaning attached to that, and then a more deeper emotion every single time. And so it's not just parents, it's I'm not going to call out everybody, but just think of any authority figure.
Well, when you're young, you've got teachers.
Yeah.
And if your family belongs to any kind of religious practice, whoever the leader of that religion is, the pastor, the imam, the rabbi, all of these people in authority. I mean, in many respects, I went to Catholic school, and the nuns were both teachers and nuns, and that gave them sort of extra power. The stuff they said was really, really listened to.
Hmm.
But this is the world of authority. This idea of authority doesn't go away. This idea of authority stays with us all of our lives. Um, and so when we're very, very young and we're very, very open, and I'd even use the phrase very, very empty,
Mm.
we're receiving constantly, uh, more often than not in love, understandings, and repetition of these understandings creates beliefs and philosophies, these kinds of larger thinking structures, larger approaches to life. I love philosophies. I used to be big into trying to teach my kids philosophies because I think they're like all-purpose rules. They help us to stay on what we might call the good side of decision making in difficult circumstances that we can't anticipate. And certainly your parents can't teach you how to deal with every possible situation that's going to come your way, even before the age of 10, right? There's so many times you're out there and you are alone. Um, and so when you're young, these things turn into belief structures and philosophies very quickly because we're pattern making people, right?
Mm-hmm.
We like to see things as similar. We like to put things into groups. We like to organize things because it helps us to know how to deal with things, how to respond to things, how to get away from things, how to stay away from things. Um, these are all just methodologies for safety.
Mm-hmm.
And that's probably the primary thing your parents are really trying to instill in you for your first 7, 8 years at least. There's not a lot your parents say to you, go for it. Do that. Take a chance. It's not a message they give you very often.
I was told to become a lawyer, a doctor, or a teacher. And I did none of those. Well, I'm sort of a teacher.
The point is your parents are just, we've got to lovingly look at that kind of programming as given to us from a place of love, from a place of protection. And we have to, I think one of the first big reframes I always test on my clients, some clients are already there, but some clients aren't. One of the first big reframes I test on my clients is parents can be wrong. Right? Parents can be wrong. And if we can accept that parents can be wrong, that there isn't a manual, that they didn't wake up one day having a child, they now knew everything they needed to know about life. If we can accept that parents can be wrong, we can do two things that are really important. We can change our programming
Mhm.
and we can forgive
Mhm.
because forgiving parents is a big one.
Have you ever come up, I haven't used that reframe yet in my practice, and I'm gonna start now that you've said it. But I've got a question for you. Have you ever come up to somebody who has a hard time with that, but because they are a parent and they don't want to think that they were wrong?
Hmm. I haven't seen that particularly, but what typically happens is I'll say, well, parents can be wrong. And they'll nod. They'll say, yes, of course. It's
Mhm.
like that. And in their conscious mind, they're right there with me because it makes all the sense in the world and it's really hard to argue with. And we all have experiences and knowledge of, the breadth of parenting that goes on out there. And it becomes really easy for them on a conscious mind basis to say parents can be wrong. And then as we get into the subconscious mind, as we use that reframe, we go into trance. We might regress to a time where they were children. They might be dealing with an emotion and an experience that is getting in the way of their life now, but they don't know it. They don't understand it. So we'll regress back to that moment, and there they are as a child. And they'll be they'll be very very locked in to their deference to their parents. And so I'll use that reframe. Well, remember now, parents can be wrong. And that's when the resistance will happen because there's sometimes ancillary programs. It's not just what the parents taught you that you think is important, but your parents kind of taught you in this world. If there's anybody you trust, it's us.
Mhm.
Right? So there's kind of a layer on there. There's a secondary program that is now reinforcing the first.
Yeah.
And I've seen that. I've also seen a great deal of fear in subjects in regression when they're told, when they're in a regressed state, observing or being or in some way connected to that inner child back then. Um, a real resistance to the idea that their parents can be wrong because they have so much trust in that. They have so much invested in that that it's scary to see it differently. And this is where, as hypnotists, when we regress, we almost always take support with us. For me, I always have the adult version
Yeah.
who has agreed consciously in this concept.
Hmm.
I always take them to be with the child.
Yeah.
And when it gets really intense, I'll often call in the higher self as well. So there'll be a team of three. There'll be the one who had the experience. There'll be the adult now who is looking at the experience, and the higher self who understands the meaning and purpose of the experience and what they were supposed to get out of it.
Yeah.
And then I'll often just tell the adult self, I'll say, I want you to talk to the child and help them understand um, that parents can be wrong and that's okay. They're doing their best and you're strong now. And I'll often say to the child, look at your adult self. Here you are. You're safe. You're strong. Your adult self understands that parents can be wrong. You're going to be safe. The fact that they're here is proof that you figured it out and that you lived, that you survived, that you got through a whole lot of stuff. The fact that your adult self is here is proof you can trust them and get the younger self to trust the older self.
I have a reframe that I use when we're talking to the younger self or even removing a limiting belief from the system. If this was a brand new concept in your life, you would never accept it.
Hmm.
Right? Like if you had never heard before, oh, you're not good at that, or you're not gonna achieve that, or something like that, you would have nothing to link it to, right? So you would not, chances are you would not accept it into
Hmm.
your mind.
Hmm.
Does that make sense?
I think so. Yeah. Yeah. I can see how, um, especially in a context um, where you've got a subject who just doesn't know what to believe, right?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, that's the idea of the critical factor. The critical factor is that part of us that says these new ideas, I'm not so sure. But authority gets through the critical factor almost all of our lives. What happens as we get older is we often reject people's authority. We start to say, where is your authority coming from? And so we're now a little more restrictive on what we allow in.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but we still tend to be open to authority. And when we take a course and a professor says something, we're predisposed usually to believe it. I've had lots of students, and I used to say this in my class, and I believe it very strongly. Um, I want a student with healthy skepticism. I want a student with healthy skepticism. I want them to be able to think of the idea, use their own critical thinking, and ask themselves, do they think that's real? Do they think that's true? We tend to turn to science as some kind of all-purpose proof when we make statements that are new to
Mm-hmm.
people. Um, but we should all have a healthy skepticism of just about everything we receive. And for me, the one I use with my clients is says who,
Mm-hmm.
right? Says who. Um, where does this information come from? And I also think that there's a lot of value in learning how to differentiate between types of sentences, types of statements, right? There are statements that are facts,
Mm-hmm.
like the weather report, which I didn't give today. It's overcast today, and the wind is moving out of the east across the water. These are just facts. And unless you're here, it really doesn't affect you. But um, these are just facts. There's fact statements, but it becomes an opinion statement the instant I say, it's a dreary day here by the lake,
Yeah.
because I'm now taking the fact that it's overcast and there's a breeze and I'm interpreting it negatively.
Yeah.
And that's an opinion, right? Some people love this weather, right? The duck hunters are loving this weather, right? It makes it good conditions for them to go duck hunting,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's I think a strong ability to hear the difference between an interpretation and an opinion
Mm-hmm.
versus a fact. And that's one of those critical thinking techniques I think is really valuable as we learn new things. So authority is one of those things that goes right through and into the subconscious program. The second thing that goes right through the subconscious program, right through the critical factor, right into the subconscious, is trauma.
Yeah. Accidents, um, physical traumas, childhood traumas. Um, yeah. I have lots of people who have been in car accidents and yeah, they just feel like a part of them is always on guard now or anxious. Uh, some people, snowstorms, you know, a lot to do with cars. But yeah, just linking everything. So even the car that hit them, the color of the car, if they see that, it brings it all back again, you know?
Yeah. Trauma goes right into some of our most core programs. And I think one of the most important core programs we have is I am safe and I am capable. I am safe and capable of dealing with this world. And trauma brings that deep program into question
Hmm.
immediately. I think that it's important to point out that trauma um, is about interpretation. Excuse me. Trauma is about the meaning that we place on events. It's not necessarily the event itself. So let's be playful and talk about the Blue Jays losing the World Series. Some people might jokingly say I was traumatized. Other people might be totally indifferent and say, "What's a World Series?" And what's going on? I'm not aware of that. Um, it's the same event interpreted deeply different for those hardcore dyed in the wool Toronto Blue Jays fans. They're still suffering over the fact that their team was so close, was so good, had virtually won it a number of times and didn't end up winning it. That for them is something they're going to continue to process, and it's difficult for them. And for others, it's a non-event. It just didn't happen. It's just not important. Now I'm being lighthearted there talking about that. Um, but my point is that two people can have the exact same event take place in front of them, and it will have a different impact on their core programming.
Hmm.
And trauma is that intensity of emotion that you can't manage. And since most of all, you're programmed to survive, you're programmed to just get around, get through, get past, stay safe. Anything that brings that into question is a trauma.
Hmm.
And, for little kids, um, I would say anybody under the age of 5, a traumatic experience goes to the core of their existence, goes to their actual fear of survival. Their fears when they're very, very young, as infants and little children, is just that they're going to die, that their true self is in question. Their true survival is at risk. That is the way to honor and gently approach trauma in those that are very, very young. So you sort of double the impact because as adults we can be traumatized, but we already have a critical factor. We've already got a conscious mind. We're already functioning very logically. But as children, we don't have those protections. And so trauma very young really shapes the way we see the world.
Hmm. Yeah, and I don't know what I would if I would label this as trauma, but it definitely um well, I guess I would label it as trauma because it is affecting the client now in life. Um, but sometimes we go back in time and it's just one of those times where mom or dad did not come into the room to pick them up, right? And so they start feeling, well, what is wrong with me? And again, these aren't thoughts that the little baby is thinking, but it is an emotion that is a frequency of thought, I believe. And and so there's healing to be done there, but absolutely those kinds of things can influence how you view your own security now in life.
Yeah. And so there's the childhood programs, and then there are the traumatic events of adulthood. And it's unique to the person. You can't say that somebody should or shouldn't be traumatized. What matters is an intensity of emotion, an intensity so great that they're not able to process it in a relieving way, in a satisfying way.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really, the step one is always just to honor that that was their experience. That's what they went through. And then, as we do in hypnosis, gently and steadily help them reprogram that, reinterpret that, reframe that so that it's not having the same impact on their deeper programming, their deeper methodology of living.
So that would lead to the third, the third way of accessing the subconscious mind fast is hypnosis.
Theta state, theta
Yeah.
state meditation, theta state um, hypnosis. We call it hypnosis. Sometimes I love the word, sometimes I hate the word,
Yeah.
because it
Yeah.
has so many connotations, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's take a little side trip there. Denotation and connotation. I remember studying communications, studying symbolism. That was one of my big themes when I was young. I was really interested in symbolism, how things represent other things, and that's the way we think, right? That's why hypnosis works so well, is that it's in metaphor. We tell stories that are similar. We imagine things that are similar or more simplistic. Um, the body, the mind respond really well to metaphor and to the idea of story and to the idea of symbolism. Anyway, denotation is a word is what the word is, right? A statement is what the statement is. I can say it's overcast, right? Or the one I enjoy using is I can say it's cool outside. The connotation, the meaning it really has might be that I really like it. It's cool out there, right? Or I might be denoting something, meaning it's just, below 5 degrees out there.
Hmm.
Um, Denotation and connotation are big ideas. And so um, we use words that are packed with connotations. We use imagery that is packed with connotations, bigger meanings, broader um, and more comforting. So once we get a client into the theta state, which is simply that their mind slows, they're not using it for conscious thought anymore. Their mind, um, the pattern on an EEG is slower, broader. Um, their mind is more internally focused. They're you can't really get to a theta state. Well, let's just use that. Typically, you can't get to a theta state unless you're in a calm, quiet environment where you feel safe to turn your attention away from the external world and to the internal world. And that's why hypnotic induction is really done in a quiet room with the lights dimmed, with no external stimulus. You're under a blanket in a great big chair um, that is completely supporting you so that you become less aware of your physical senses. That allows you to go into your mind. It allows you to feel safe enough to consider what comes up in your mind. And these are times when it is easier to go around and through the critical mind, the critical factor, which allows us to simply cause it to pause and say, is that true? You're safe right now. You can reconsider the programming. It's kind of like, the analogy I use that works for a lot of clients is kind of like turning your computer off or shutting down all the programs before you try to change the programs, right? You're going to get your mind in a safe place so that it can reconsider the programs that it's carrying around.
Yeah, and I think it's important for people to know that your conscious mind isn't disappearing, right? It is about just not having the jargon that is constantly going through our mind. Yeah, but I don't know about that. Oh, I'm anxious about that. Those sort of those kinds of thoughts just drift away. And you're more thoughtful about your internal environment. What's going on for me right now? What am I working on? Um, so it's not that I remember when I first went for hypnosis as a client, and I was terrified. I mean, I was going because I was desperate, but I was terrified that I was going to become somebody else or go to sleep and wake up something else, or that I wouldn't have control over my mind. I want to make it very apparent that you do have control of your mind. You can open your eyes at any point, and say, no, this is not for me. You can even say, hey, I gotta go to the bathroom, like mid-session. And then you go to the bathroom, come back. So it's not about losing your conscious mind, as we call it, conscious mind. It's about letting go of the thoughts that get in the way of making those deeper changes that you wish to make. Mm.
Yeah, I think that you touch on something that's really real. That I think a lot of people, I won't say most people, but I will say um, more than half of the people I've worked with are afraid of their own mind. They're
Mhm.
afraid of going in there. They're afraid of looking to see what's in there. They're afraid of facing things that have caused them to be very harshly judging themselves.
Mhm.
I mean, it's one of the biggest things that we have to deal with when we're in hypnosis. It's kind of like an ancillary to almost everything we do is helping people um, trust and love themselves. Um, in our minds, and probably nowhere else in the world, I guess is the best way to say it. Nowhere in the universe is there a list of all your mistakes except in your own mind. Nowhere in the universe is somebody keeping score about the things you did wrong except in your own mind.
Mhm.
And nowhere in the universe does anybody really know how you think of yourself except in your own mind.
Yeah.
And our self view is something that we change with great resistance. Our self view believes that it has lots of reasons to think this way about yourself, about myself. It's aware of every single event in the whole of your life that justifies thinking this way about you. And it clings to those events as judgments, and judgments being the critical word, judgment being um, condemnation, some degree of condemnation. When judgment becomes a way of approaching everything and condemnations pile up in the subconscious mind, it's really, really hard to love yourself. It's really, really hard to see yourself as worthy, as deserving, as good. And that's a big one that we have to deal with. I think the first way to deal with that is I try to remind my clients, and it's almost universally true, that there is someone in their life that they love so much that they could forgive them for anything. They could look past anything. And if you are capable of that, right? If you are capable of looking past others' errors and loving them anyway, then others are capable of that for you. And then maybe remind yourself that there are people who look past all your errors, all your mistakes. And that gives you permission to look past all your mistakes and love you anyway. Mm-hmm. So that's a simple way of addressing that big picture.
I want to throw it out there right now. If anyone has any questions, just put it in the comments. Let us know what you'd like to hear about, or any questions about what we've talked about.
So I'm not sure how we got to talking about the critical factor and getting around it.
It's all good. It's all good though.
What got us there?
How long if someone joins if someone joins our school, our community, how long do they sign up for?
The mind is an amazing thing. It's the way it can get you to places. We started there.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess we were talking about the format of courses, or was that I headed towards the format of courses?
I was talking about how we're going to have courses for individuals, courses for hypnotists and individuals. And maybe my talk about the hypnosis courses spurred that.
No, I think what it was I was thinking about talking about the framework of courses. So the courses that we're constructing right now, that I was working on yesterday, we'll be working on all day today, have a certain structure. As a school, first of all, we want it to be a community. And so there are all kinds of sort of community chat threads that allow us to just talk about topics, that allow you to ask questions, and we want you to. We want you to just dive in, put some questions in there, about any topic you want. Start your own thread, and let's get talking. And in those threads, there's going to be specific threads targeted at particular courses. So far, I've done some recordings on what we call the preschool. And the preschool is just some basic ideas about hypnosis, including a hypnosis pre-talk, which is part of...
Which is actually in there this morning now.
In there this morning, which
in
is...
the classroom, sorry.
Just sort of a classic way we discuss hypnosis with our clients to prepare them. Because when a client goes through a pre-talk, the chances of success go up astronomically. They've measured this over and over and over. Not only does the chance of success of hypnosis go way up, like 80% up, but the effectiveness of the hypnosis itself goes way up because people become aware. And it's why I feel good talking about what we talked about this morning, being aware of your mind, starting to become a little bit more observing of your mind rather than just sort of trapped within it. But the courses are going to deal first on the conscious mind level. Here's some ideas. Here's some ideas you haven't yet considered. And reframing when it is true and when it means something about you is very effective in the complete living of your life. It's those philosophies, it's those big picture things, that really embrace you and can carry you through almost any kind of experience. So to reframe starts with the conscious mind saying, yeah, that makes sense. Parents can be wrong.
Mhm.
And then you go into a theta state and you address it there. And so each course is going to have, I'm trying to get them as shorter and shorter. They're getting shorter, honest they are. They're going to keep getting shorter and shorter, these little lessons that focus on conscious mind thinking, a reframe that's followed by a meditation. It won't be a long meditation, but it'll be followed by a meditation where you can go into a theta state and you can consider this reframe and how it might play out in your life, how it might bring peace to you, bring calmness, uh, might buffer emotions, might better understand emotions, which is a whole series of reframes that are coming. And so we're going to get some basic core ideas about reframing in there, and then every week we're going to have another reframe in there with another meditation that you can listen to, a short lesson, 15 minutes, and then move on to a meditation where you can allow your subconscious mind to reconsider and reprocess and reprogram. And then there'll be the chat all about that, right? That thread will be all about that particular reframe, and we can talk about it, and we can talk about resistances that we have to it. We can talk about what the conscious mind and the subconscious mind, their interaction and their friction, and we can really just be much more helpful with ideas. And as time goes on, there will be all these recordings and there will be all these chat threads that have already started, but you can join and take it from wherever point you're at. And our intention is to be available. Add to that the fact that we're here. We're here live this morning. We're going to try to be live every day at some point, as a way of being available to the people who join the school.
Mhm.
And I like to think of the school as a journey, just like college or grade school. It's a journey that takes you from point A to point B, with the focus in this case on understanding your own mind and how it works and how you can use it and how you can use it to your own benefit,
Yeah.
how you can reprogram it.
I think a good example, and I think I said this a couple years ago in the podcast. Um, I did a 10-day silent retreat many years ago now. And if you're listening to this example, it absolutely across the board applies to everybody. Um, I was sitting there focusing on my nostrils or, like how to breathe or how I'm breathing, focusing on this little spot. And suddenly there was this recognition that my mind was like not focused on my nostril. Like, you know, it was off carrying on these crazy things. It was off in another land, basically. And it was so out there that I hadn't even realized that I had pulled away from being focused. And I thought to myself, number one, how long has this been happening going on for? And after thinking about it a while, I felt like it was maybe like 20 minutes of it just going crazy. And then I thought, and this was a moment of recognition, is who's thinking here? Who's doing the thinking? Like, I thought I was in control. So bringing that around to the school, the community, we're hoping that we help you over time regain elements of control over your mind so that you have that buffer, that boundary around you that says, no, I'm not going to just get caught up in life and go down rabbit holes and spiral into emotions from the past or thoughts from the past. We want to help you regain that control over your mind. And not saying that we have tons of control over our minds, but we have thought about these reframes, and we've been helping people for a long time. And so we think that there's a nugget here that is something that we'd like to share and help people with.
Yeah, I like the phrase meta thinking. And I would say that I've been engaged in meta thinking for over 25 years, thinking about how my mind works. It seems to be the place where I make decisions. It seems to be the place where I react to what's going on. So what is this thing that I call my mind? And who's in charge of that?
Yeah, exactly. So as we wrap up here, if you're still with us, if you want to check out the community,
Any questions?
no questions right now. Head on into either the description or the show notes, or if it's on YouTube, yeah, the description below, and you'll find a link to the community. Again, right now it's free to join. So yeah, come on out. Come on down.
And we love questions, so please ask.
Please ask.
Don't be shy.
Lots of questions.
We've even got a thing on our website that you can ask questions completely anonymously, that we can't even track you down. We can't even find out who you are. We can't ever know who it was that asked that question.
Yeah.
And we don't mind that.
Yeah, it's under the podcast page. All right, thanks for joining us. We'll see you later.